Okay, so we're doing this Google Plus simple hangout. We wanted to answer some questions that people have. I'm Andrew.
Hey guys, this is Dan.
So we're doing this on Google Plus, which means anyone can show up, and we hope no random people just pop in.
Is that Andy?
It's like roast beef and cheese on rye, some pickles, and some yogurt. I heard that if I eat this yogurt, I'll meet John Stamos.
Dan, do you think we should do this just in real life, not on Google Plus?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, that's a lot better.
So we got some really exciting stuff for you today. But first, we're going to rapid fire some questions that we've been getting.
Yeah. And because after we answer those questions, we're going to give some stuff away. How do you in it? Free stuff. So the first question that we've been getting a lot is, how much does the bot weigh? What's the spacing on the wheels of the shooter? What speed are the shooter wheels spinning at? I'll let Dan answer that one.
JVN gear calculator.
Answer it like that?
No, not at all. So the wheels are spinning using sim motors that spin around 5,000 RPM. Look for the most recent motor curves for more accurate information. Those motors are geared up from 1 to 1.14 and from 1 to 1.25. You may need to do some math to determine whether or not it's the optimal gear ratio.
What happens when we shoot Frisbees upside down? We already have some videos out there answering it. Do you have any more thoughts on it than what we talked about in the video?
The Frisbees have a different aerodynamic than when they fly upside down or right side up. So make sure that when you're shooting Frisbees long distances, you are accounting for this different flight pattern.
Yeah, I think you guys really need to take your shooters and test that. We saw in some instances that upside down they're flying way further. We weren't really sure about the consistency. We were having some problems with the Frisbees actually getting a little bit of wear on them actually. So you definitely need to do a lot of testing on that. What about the human loading station? Is it easy to drive up to that human loading station? When we did our test, I'd say it was pretty easy to get up to the human loading station. One of the faults, we'll get into it later, is we didn't optimize our design to really work with the human loading station. We assumed some stuff and we got it wrong. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. What angle is the shooter at and what angle is the hopper at?
Shooter is 30 degrees and the hopper is around 54 degrees.
What range are we shooting at? Most of the shots were about 15 feet. We found our sweet spot. We did some other shots at 30 feet if you watched the last video we put up. A lot of people have been begging to find out how many hours he worked on this bot. If you take the total man hours and do some calcs, you get, what was it, 100?
About 180 hours.
180 hours. Why didn't we pick up Frisbees from the floor? I'll let the engineer answer that question.
Because it's really hard. And let me just add one thing. For those of you worried about playing defense or having defense played on you while shooting, how about playing defense while you're trying to pick up Frisbees? That may be the hardest task in the game, except for climbing to the third zone. What was I even going to say? One more point to make is that when you're trying to pick up from the floor versus when you're going to the human lighter, you may have an indecisive action. So you may actually have to figure out where the Frisbees are on the floor in order to pick them up. You know exactly where you need to get to human load. So just getting from point A to point B and that decision-making process may speed up your actions per match.
Then with that, why didn't we climb to the top? Well, again, it's really hard. We only had 3 days to do this, guys. So we just decided to go with the simple hang. Also, that's a really quick strategy. That shooter is very fast. We figured in a real match, you could shoot a lot of Frisbees into the goal in the time it will take you to get some crazy mechanism to get you all the way to the third level. What would we do different over this 3-day build, or what would we do different if we were on a team having 6 weeks to build this robot? First off, the drivetrain. We definitely wouldn't build a regular 4-wheel drive. We would build something like the Kitbot or Kitbot on steroids, where you have that 6-wheel drive with the center wheel drop just a hair. That makes your robot turn a lot better, gives you just as good pushing power. Tons and tons of competitions have been won with that 6-wheel drivetrain. We also, for this game, would consider doing a Mecanum drive. The nice flat field. There's definitely some situations where having that strafe ability would be great, but only if you have a programming team that can back it up. There's a lot of Mecanum drives out there who don't have the programming support, and they're very, very difficult to drive.
Well, I think one of the major things we would do different is the feeder funnel. When you load it from the human loader station, we have a somewhat narrow hopper and loading station. Getting to the loading station is somewhat difficult. So we would probably increase the width of the mouth of the funnel down to our hopper.
We definitely should have spent more time with that horseshoe shooter. I think because of the time we put it in, we saw we did okay with it, and then we built the linear one and seemed to work about the same. But I think if I was on a team, I would spend a little more time at the horseshoe shooter before just assuming that the linear shooter is a better solution.
But remember, the linear solution provides for a simpler packaging option, with the hopper being able to rest right on top of it, whereas a circular shooter may have to change direction. So keep that in mind as you're prototyping your shooter options.
And if you don't have the ability to make that curve for the horseshoe, it could be difficult. Rails are much more easy to come by. Another thing that we think you guys should think about, or just understand that we learned, is the Frisbees seem to have a little bit of wear on them. If you look at the edge of the Frisbee, we're seeing a little bit of scuffing and marking where the wheels have been hitting the Frisbee, and they're not flying quite as consistent as we saw before. So that's something you might want to be aware of as you go through a tournament. Maybe at the end of a day, the Frisbees will be more worn and might not fly as consistent as they were in the beginning of the day.
Yeah, especially when you're changing out for finals matches. If they decide to refresh the Frisbees, you may actually have to have two different shooting options, one with worn Frisbees and one with brand new Frisbees. The thing we noticed while testing, the size of the goals are rather big this year, larger than any of the previous scoring goals that I can remember. They allow you to score from multiple different distances and angles, especially that middle goal, which is worth 2 points. It should be a little bit easier to score this year.
That we've been thinking about is if we were designing a robot, we might try to see if we can have the human loader that you load the Frisbees on the opposite side of the shooter somehow, so that your robot doesn't have to do 360s to get to the loader and turn around and start shooting. You might be able to just back up, go forward, back up, go forward. That way you can minimize movements that your drivers have to do is always a good way. Now the big question everyone's been asking us, what are we going to do next?
We ain't got no clue, but get your chips and salsa because it's going to be big. We're not exactly sure what we're going to do in the future, but we know what we're going to do right now.
We're going to give away some free stuff! 100,000 views! We're going to get some awesome RI3D swag, some cool other stuff from our sponsors. So, how do you sign up to win? Well, you have to comment for this video with what your favorite robot is.
My favorite robot is Bob the Bobot.
You have to make sure you're 18 and over, and if you're not, get your parents' permission to enter. You also have to subscribe to our channel. When is it going to be over? Make sure you get those entries in because we're going to do the drawing on the 22nd of January.
My birthday!
Someone's going to Target. His birthday, we're giving you some stuff.
Free stuff.
Make sure you comment with your favorite robot, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you around next time.
We're going to post the winner in the details on the 22nd.